I'm in a room full of people that's just looking like, what's up? I have a Republican card.
Because according to him, people were coming to eat my dog. So I was like, are you kidding me? It took me back to bleach and a light up your hoo-ha. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is not Saturday Night Live. This is not a skit. Real people are being affected. Single mothers with kids, families working jobs. I mean, kids with no food, lunch programs being slashed. And this is what the debate turned into.
Is there anything, you mentioned something in the past that Trump has done. Is there anything currently that he's talking about that you feel like, because a lot of people hang up on the man, the crazy.
And January 6th,
yeah.
My God.
Yeah, I mean,
if those people who charged the Capitol looked like you and me, they'd still be power washing blood.
What's up? I want to welcome everybody to the When All Hell Breaks Loose podcast. I'm your host, Chris King, and I'm excited to be here. We have a live audience here where we want you to be engaged, and those watching at home online, I want you to be engaged too. For those in the house, you have cards with a QR code, and we're going to keep on going, and we're just going to look at all of the stuff that you got to say, and we got stuff falling over here, and we just gonna go with it, and I'm just gonna take it, and I'm gonna freestyle right now. So ask your questions, hit up the QR code. If you see us online, look at the QR code, ask your questions. We're gonna answer those questions throughout the week on social media. But before I get started, let's give it up for DJ All-Star over here. See, we just here live, we just having a good time, and I'm excited to have with me once again, Miss Marneia Mitchell. She got her studious glasses on. She looks like she knows the Dewey Decimal System right about now.
I do, actually.
For y'all that don't know, that's old library system in the library. So y'all, we didn't have Google and everything like that. But Marneia, I'm so excited to have you with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Welcome. We have an exciting topic today.
Yep.
Now, Marneia, you have a lot of experience in the political realm and getting involved in politics. Mm-hmm. Just briefly let us know about your experience in the political scene.
It was sheerly by default and luck and persistence. It was during the pandemic, during one of the primaries here in Georgia, where I refused to get out of line. I stood in line despite there being trouble with the electronic voting boxes. In doing so, a New York Times reporter interviewed me, then Rachel Maddow, MSNBC, picked it up, then George Stephanopoulos with ABC came and interviewed, one of his team members came and interviewed me, and then even DW out of Germany, a division of PBS, came and interviewed me. So it was a bit of a whirlwind during that particular political season.
Wow, so if y'all hadn't guessed, here at the When All Hell Breaks Loose podcast, we talk about everything. And if you hadn't guessed, all hell is breaking loose in the political scene. So Marneia, with all of that, I want to first ask, how did you get involved in that way? You said you refused to get out of line, mm-hmm. and it just went all across the world.
It did.
So how did you get involved in that way?
I got up early on that particular voting day. Yes, I could have voted early, but I chose to go on that particular day to vote at my local primary because that date meant something to me. I got there early, got in line. Line was not moving. We saw some people coming out. They had kind of looked like provisional ballots or paper ballots. Started asking questions. I'm a conversationalist, so I started talking to people in the line, what's going on. There was a 1-800 number sign posted near us, and I was in the 4th Ward at the time, very diverse and gentrified. So it's not like days of old where a lot of people like me were waiting in line. Gays, Indians, white professionals, everybody was on their laptop, hotspot, doing work virtually. And these two gentlemen got out of line and they had taken pictures of the 1-800 number and they literally passed it around to everybody in line for us to call the number because the line was not moving and it had not been moving. And I literally stood in line for 4 hours before I finally got inside to vote. And then once I got inside, God bless the people, it was chaos. Because usually the older people who take pride in working, the ballots every year, they were sequestered inside because it was the pandemic. And to keep them safe, of course. So the people who did come out and volunteer, God bless them, but they didn't know what they were doing. So we all were kind of like, working under the auspices, of course, of the rules, but getting in, doing what you needed to do and meandering through. And while I was waiting in line, white folk, black folk, couples, singles, everybody kept leaving the line, and I kept moving up. And I saw this white guy over out of the corner of my eye, and he kind of kept coming more and more towards me. And I was like, I know this joker's not getting ready to jump. This is not the day. It's hot out here. It had rained. There were ants. I mean, we'd experienced 4 seasons within like an hour. And so he walks up, and he looks at me and shows me his badge, and he's a reporter with the New York Times. And he asked me, he's like, may I ask you a question? And I was like, well, sure. And he's like, well, why are you still in line? They left, so-and-so left. Why didn't you leave? And I looked at him, and then I reminded myself, reporters are supposed to be provocative. So I asked him, move up into the shade with me, because somebody else had left the line. And so I answered the question by giving him a lesson. There were people who looked like me that were beaten to a pulp because they gave their lives to try and vote a right in this country as a citizen, as a human, like an American citizen. And so basically I just said, it's disgusting and it's despicable that we have to stand out here and wait for all of this when everybody else in other parts of Atlanta got through just fine. And that's the quote that hit the wire, hit the printed paper, and then Rachel Maddow, MSNBC, picked it up that night. I'm at home, my phone is blowing up. I'm thinking somebody at home was sick, and no, it's like, Marneia, turn on your TV. And she pronounced my name correctly, told what I did, gave my age, gave my quote. And I thought it was interesting because we had talked about more in terms of Black history and the historical Black plight for voting in this country. He chose to tell that story with an older Black woman, but with me, he just, those 2 words, despicable and a disgrace.
Wow.
And so my 80-year-old uncle called me later, and he's like, I'm proud of you. He's like, because the white people with whom you work around in that world that you service, they know exactly what you meant and what you said. Yep. You were speaking their language when you said that.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, when you went through that, right, we had a political scene, right? It was chaotic, right? But now we're moving into an election season, and I think it's even more chaotic, right? To where, well, let me ask, did you see the debate?
Lord, baby Jesus, yes, I did.
Marneia, what in the hell is going on?
I have no idea.
Not what in the hell.
I locked my door because according to him, people were coming to eat my dog. So I was like, are you kidding me? It took me back to bleach and a light up your hoo-ha. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is not Saturday Night Live. This is not a skit. Real people are being affected. Single mothers with kids, families working jobs. I mean, kids with no food, lunch programs being slashed. And this is what the debate turned into?
You know what bothers me? Well, one of the things, right? One of the things that bothers me is that so many people showed up last time. And I worry that we get voter fatigue.
I would say
because coming into this election season, I'm hearing, well, I don't like any of the candidates. And, we've gone through 2 debates with, 3 different candidates, right? Or 3 candidates. And, I'll just say it. The first one, I had to check my internet connection. I thought, I didn't pay my cable bill, that it froze that long. I had to check my internet connection. I'm just.
I mean, that's on the real though.
I'm just saying. I was like, is the TV on? What happened? But then, this next one, it was a little sad because I felt that one candidate really played the other like a funky piano. I don't know if y'all remember that song, Play You Like a Funky Piano, right? DJ All-Star, that's old school. If you got that, man, just jam that in. But, one person got played, I think, and it was really sad. But one of the things that really, really bothers me is that so many people saying, I don't like either candidate, so I'm not going to show up.
I think, even the Catholic Church, the Pope has said America's voting for the lesser of 2 evils. And I can't say I don't disagree with him because I'm not jumping up and down, but this is what we have. I mean, for the record, I'm a registered independent. I switched many years ago. I have gone one way and I've gone another way, and I just
this is about to be interesting.
Oh Lord! So yeah,
this is about to be interesting.
I even the DNC. I get the hoopla and the energy in Georgia. Yeah, I mean, but really, I get the energy. But at the end of the day, there's got to come a point in this country when the rubber meets the road and we start making it about what matters, and that's really the families that are struggling.
Absolutely. You said you're a registered independent. Okay, full transparency.
I think what?
All right, full transparency. I'm in a room full of people that's just looking like, what's up? I have a Republican card. So a lot of people naturally assume that just because
Is there a red and white hat sitting back there?
Nah. You got jokes.
Oh Lord. Good job.
But no, I mean, I have Republican card. So, but you joke about the red and white hat, so yeah, I do. And I look at it like Chris Rock, one of my favorite comedians, he once said, I think in 2004, in his special Never Scared, he said, nobody should be just all one thing.
I would agree.
Right? He said, and this is Chris Rock, y'all, so don't throw it at me. I just love this joke and I remember it. But he said, some things I'm conservative about, some things I'm liberal about. He said, crime, I'm conservative.
Right.
Prostitution, liberal. I agree with Chris Rock. You know what I'm saying? So nobody's just one thing. So I understand your independence, you being a registered independent, but me in regards to, being, voting, my voting record or whatever and having a Republican card, it's like when I'm in certain circles, it's like, okay, that's taboo.
Right.
Right. So,
but may I ask what swayed you to that side? Was it a default or was it a thought out process?
Well, what had happened was, here's the whole, so I ran for office, y'all. So I ran for political office and I encourage people to really get involved. Now, many people focus on the federal elections,
yes,
right? The president, the senators and whatnot, congressmen and women, but local elections matter most.
They do.
That's where a lot of the laws that affect you day to day are taking place.
Yep.
So I ran for office in where I was comprised of two of the most conservative counties in the country, in Texas. A lot of the problems with a lot of the people that you see, the politicians that you see coming out of this area or having issues or whatever, or being on the news, are from the area that I ran in. So I ran in a nonpartisan race. Okay, local elections many of them are supposed to be nonpartisan. That means nobody declares Democrat or Republican. So in running for a nonpartisan race, I went to the Republican meeting to talk to the Republicans. And I signed in, and they was like, "You one of us now, brother."
Yeah.
And so they sent me a Republican card, and so now I just tell people I got a Republican card. Now, when I was running, what I would tell people, I was a pastor of a church, and I would tell people the Word of God governs my life.
Right.
My identity in Christ governs my life and how I see things and how I vote. Now, on one side, they thought that meant I was with them. On the other side, they thought that meant I was with them. And I didn't say nothing. I was just like, this is it, right? But my identity, for me, my cultural identity, my political affiliation is trumped by okay, I don't like that word. Okay, all right. All right. I usually say it like that. I really do.
Yeah.
But I'm going to change it. Give me a synonym. Do thesaurus.com. Give me a synonym for, my cultural and my political affiliation. My cultural and political affiliation is overshadowed. Okay.
Right.
All right. The word of the day program that's overshadowed by my kingdom identity. Okay. And so that's how I govern my life. But I tell people that, there's some real talk. There are some things I'm more moderate. I'm more in the center. There's some things I'm more conservative about, and there's some things I might be liberal about, right? So I can't just say, okay, I'm gonna be one or the other. Now it's getting more like Crips and Bloods, and it's just like, what do we do?
And people are dug in. I think especially those on the Republican side. I've heard people say, it's not about the individual, it's about the party. I understand that, but the one thing that worries me is this individual has said he wants to be a dictator. The people that have said or done things against him, fullest level of, heights of prosecution when he gets in. It just, if he wins, I don't think we will ever see the seat empty again.
Well, I mean, everybody got to die someday, but so at some point he'll be gone. But Marneia, I told you I'm gonna push you, I'm gonna challenge you, because that's just what I do. A lot of people have been talking about Project 2025.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
And that's
here.
another reason. I mean, I think, the lesser of two evils to take a different choice. I am a graduate of the University of Virginia. Black Alumni Weekend, we have every 2 years, where all the Black alumni, or many of them, get together and we come and celebrate. We call ourselves the largest HBCU inside of a PWI. We literally had just been on the grounds of the university 2 weeks before those guys descended with tiki torches. And that particular BAW, I'd stayed late, great weather, we were having a good time, and I was driving all the way back to Atlanta, so 10, 12 hours, all the way back by myself. And as I get on the outskirts of Charlottesville, I see the prettiest, greenest field, the tallest flagpole, and at the top, the biggest Confederate flag I'd ever seen in my life. In my years at Virginia, I'd never seen that in that area. It sent chills down my spine. And then 2 weeks later, first woman president of the university, President Sullivan, she's outside, she's attacked, tiki torches, students of a myriad of races, and then they go to downtown Charlottesville, and a white girl ends up getting killed, good people on both sides, by a car. And I'm thinking, okay, really? Nobody's taken a stand for this? And I unfortunately think, should Project 2025 come to fruition, this will be a common thing. It'll be like it's nothing. What's a Black life? What is that? It already shows you people who are Black in the party, even higher up in the party. I'm trying to remember the name of the gentleman who during COVID, staunch supporter of Trump, went to a rally, caught COVID and died. Did we even hear the president mention his name? So, I just, Lord baby Jesus, the United States is still fighting the Civil War.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Okay, come
now,
through.
Marneia did see. She said come through, so she's ready. She about to hit me, y'all. I ain't scared of white people. I'm scared of Marneia.
Oh, whatever.
So Project 2025.
Yeah.
All right, people talk about that, right? But as if it's some devil's Bible or dictionary, but I can see at least some good aspects in Project 2025.
I'm sorry, can you list them?
No, seriously.
Okay.
Now she real talk, y'all, she doesn't know I'm about to say this, right? She's really about to probably hit me. So, all right. So
I'm not into physical violence.
All right, not yet.
Not yet.
All right. So Project 20, be devil's advocate. Project 2025, one of the key components is the resurgence of family.
That I agree with.
One of the key pillars, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we agree that the foundation of family has deteriorated in America?
Yes, you have me on board with that. Yeah.
Okay. Can we agree?
Sadly, I agree. Yes.
Can we agree the foundation of family is the foundation of any thriving society?
I would say yes to that.
Okay. Can we agree that there needs to be a resurgence in family values and the foundation of family rebuilt in America?
I can agree. However, some principles that the government set up a long time ago with the welfare system, whereby a woman is in a home with children and no man can be present, or her proceeds, her credits are cut off. I mean, that in and of itself has deteriorated family, and particularly in the Black sector for people who look like you and me. So is there going to be some rollback on that, allowing a man to then come in and those benefits provide for him, or some type of work training or something that's going to enable him to uplift his family? If we're so much about uplifting the family in this country.
So let me ask this, because we just saw in the debate about people complaining about something and not having a plan to fix it.
Agreed.
Having concepts.
Correct.
Right? All right. So if Project 2025, if one of the pillars is family, and we agree that family is under attack in America, and not just in America, just across the world, but let's focus here in America. Mm-hmm. What are ideas? What do we do to start rebuilding that, to start having a society that can thrive then? Because I don't see any other plan if that's an issue.
But that plan doesn't belong to one of the candidates. That's a plan that's come about by a whole different group that has an entirely different agenda.
But it is largely marketed as if one of the candidates is a part of it and has solidly endorsed that plan.
Then you know what? Let's open up that alleged book of Project 2025 and have a bipartisan group go through and pick out the best ideas that will benefit everyone. Because when it's almost like code word, switch word for thug, you're talking like a young black man. Mm-hmm. Family, you're talking mom, dad, 2.5 kids, dog and cat, and gerbil, white family. Mm-hmm.
So, no, not gerbils. My mama said gerbils are nothing but rats.
Okay.
We had rats. That
okay,
cool.
well, rabbit, yeah. Bunny rabbit. Okay. So you're talking white family traditionally. If you are saying, and I don't disagree with that's a great concept, then let's go ahead and have a bipartisan group comb through this, because that's a great aspect and concept. It pulls it down to the community level of local government, just like what you said. And then we go to state, and then we go to federal. But everything that starts is going to happen right here in everybody's home. And if you've got a mom and a father, you've already got a greater shot in making it in this country. Family, sets off great examples for the children in the home. People serving, helping older people, orphans, et cetera, the whole thing. But I'm not going to take the whole book. I'm not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but there's a lot of stuff in that book that, we could be back out picking tobacco, sugar, and cotton on Mr. Johnny's, land again. I don't think so.
Or marijuana.
That too.
No, so do you agree with everything that Kamala stands for?
No, I don't.
Like what?
Well, first, I don't have any concrete plans. They're ideas and they're concepts. So, and the fact that, and I think it was the right move to shift President Biden out. God bless him.
I think he's still on my TV screen.
Frozen.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm not against her. I just haven't heard enough from her.
Right.
And I'm tired of the cutesy. I'm tired of the, I've heard more about her ethnicity and her laugh than I have about, okay, what are the concrete decisions and courses we're going to put into play for struggling people out here in this country.
Okay. So what's one thing, at least one thing that you agree with that Trump either has done or may plan to do?
Well, actually, I was in the midst of my divorce the last time he was in office, and he was the one that said if you are paying alimony, you now are taxed, and the person receiving alimony, it was not taxed. So for that, I was thankful. Yeah.
Now, I asked you that before.
You did.
So I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I appreciate is that you're not just coming up here just throwing up some stuff that you heard. You are well informed, right? So you're well informed, independent. Now I told you I was gonna push you.
I know.
I'm like, she like, bless your heart, because you getting under my skin a little bit. But tell me about like being informed, because you started talking about something. We started talking about family, and I put a pin in that intentionally, because some of the things that you said were laying out a foundation of how we can restore the family structure and how important that is, right? So we can all agree that there are aspects on both sides. Now, I'm just sitting here just talking, right? I hadn't told you which way that I lean or whatever. I told you I got a Republican card, but, Hey, I voted Republican. Some things I'm conservative about, some things I'm liberal.
Yeah.
Crime, conservative.
Right.
Prostitution, liberal. Okay? All right. But that's Chris Rock's quote, if everybody's asked. That's not Chris King. Don't be running out there saying, Pastor Chris, be out there on them women. Don't be saying any of that. All right. So in relation to that, we agree that there are things on both sides, right? But what we just agreed on was the foundation of what may need to be established in this society. Yeah. And you started walking us through local, then state, federal. So how do we make a change? Because I just mentioned local elections are most important, and many people don't show up in those elections.
Yeah.
Right? So how do we get informed, and how do we show up?
You know, the first thing I think, the one thing most people have in common, a place of worship, place of faith. If within local elections, the pastor, the leader of that house, whatever, speaks to that. I think even if there's some organization that people, like a food pantry or a hospice center or some place where people can come together in a bipartisan way and volunteer, and they can get information about what's happening locally with laws pertaining to things that they care about in their local community. That may be a hairpin, like a pull trigger for them. You know, a lot of politics is boring. People just want to live their life and just want to be. And every time you turn around, it's a law here, law there, until they go to do something and they find out the law has been changed and they weren't aware of it. So I think you attack it first or approach it first in some area where people care about something.
So we often hear about Kamala and her record as DA, right? They talk about all the people that they locked up.
Yeah.
Right? Are you aware?
And a lot of them look like you.
Yeah, a lot of them look like me.
Yeah.
Right? So what do you think about that? Because that was DA, that's local.
Yeah.
Right? So now it's being brought into the federal scope, right? And showing the importance. But do you think that's one, how do you feel about that as far as its validity? And then what do you think, once you answer that, what do you think about, just that aspect of her life and her being one that locked up a lot of brothers that look like me?
I think, one, I don't know the whole legal, records with all these people, but one, she was doing her job. She was doing a job she was hired to do. Two, I don't have an issue with what she did. She is a woman of color. She pledged at a historically black college university. She pledged a D9. She's an AKA. This was also brought up on the last presidential election where she was one of the candidates. I don't know why this is coming back up again. She was voted in as vice president, and she's doing her job. She did a job. I don't know if it's any different. Would a white man have gotten as much pushback as the number of black men they lock up?
Okay. So I'm just gonna fire questions off at you, right? I'm just firing stuff off. Immigration.
They're calling her the wall czar. I'm sorry. When is the last time a vice president had control over our borders? I don't know anything about that.
But that's her responsibility.
I don't think that was her responsibility, though. I think that's what the other group is putting on as her responsibility. He is the president of these United States. I have a passport. I lived abroad for 3 years. When I went into the embassy in London, the United States Embassy in London, I didn't see a picture of the vice president. I saw a picture of the president hanging up on that wall. I'm in another country. That's American soil while I'm in that building, and never felt prouder. I was like, I love my place now. I love my country. But there was no VP in there. There was a presidential picture hanging up in there along with an American flag. So that has nothing to do with Kamala and that border. That's Biden's job, and whoever else he appointed to assist him with that.
Another topic that we often hear about, abortion. That's a controversial one. Right? I mean, it's like, what am I supposed to think when I start talking about, I just told you, hey, the word of God governs my life.
Yes, it does.
Right? What am I supposed to think? How am I supposed to do? And let's be real. A lot of folks that's voting for this stuff and everything have had that pregnancy prayer. Ooh, Lord, please don't let her be pregnant. I promise if she's pregnant or if she's not pregnant, I'll go to church. Right? We've done that, right? But I mean, that's a huge,
I think a woman should have governance over her body. You know what? Men had a role to play in that. So is anybody talking about mandatory vasectomies?
Now. I've thought about one.
Okay, here we go.
I've thought about it. I got 4 kids.
But no, in all realness, if it's a 10-year-old girl, a 13-year-old girl who's been molested by somebody, I mean.
But that's not, I mean, isn't that like the extreme?
I know that's the extreme. That is
right?
the extreme. I mean, I just think it's leading people to other decisions that are going to be more life-threatening. And trust me on this, people of means who Uncle Johnny is a physician and we'll just go out to his barn and the stable below the stables, there's a such and such a table, we'll get little Becky taken care of. That will always be managed and handled. But for people in the largest group of the population, I am a believer. Christ, is my Lord and Savior. Lord, forgive me. I think a woman should have control over her own body, her own say.
I get that. But bringing faith into it, right? If we're going to really bring faith into it, at what point do we really allow the grace of God to possibly intervene into somebody's situation?
Okay, the grace of God intervening in somebody's situation, it is completely possible. But there was something a couple of elections ago whereby people were like, no abortion, save the unborn babies. And then as soon as the baby is born, they're going to vote against welfare increases. They're going to vote against centers for health care and centers for after-school child care because mom is a waitress and that's the only job with her education she can get. So there's a whole lot of stuff on the system that's got to be changed. Maybe that baby is best back in the Gulf. I don't know.
I mean,
no better would have been sex education, would have been a loving home. But we've got to unwind a whole lot of ball of wax. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Sex education being taught in the churches or in schools properly. Like, not like calling things names. Call it what it is and talking about how things really happen. Like, we've got to quit pitter-pattering around and playing and being, like, oh, well, don't do this. And, did you have a little protection? Did you wear it? And, I mean, come on, folks. Rubber's got to meet the road.
So is there anything, you mentioned something in the past that Trump has done as president, right? The good thing is that we have historical representation of, hey, he was president once, right? So is there anything currently that he's talking about that you feel like, because a lot of people hang up on the craziness.
And January 6th, my God. If those people who charged the Capitol looked like you and me, they'd still be power washing blood off of that marble.
They look like a bunch of roaches when you turn the lights on. You know what I'm saying? They just started scattering.
And the fact that he didn't speak against that. So to answer your question directly, quick tangent. There's only one thing he did that really surprised me when she brought up the Central Park 5.
Okay.
And he didn't say I'm sorry, but he did refer back to history and he alluded to mistakes, but he also went to Michael Bloomberg, who I think was the mayor at the time perhaps, who supported him as well. And I thought, you know what? He wasn't wrong in that. There was a wave of people who were saying these boys were guilty or if they pleaded, I don't know if they're coerced, whatever. I didn't necessarily follow the case that clearly, but they were exonerated and they are innocent.
Right.
But I was shocked I had never heard as much humanity from him as in that moment. Now, that's not going to make me turn my mind on something, but I was like, whoa, there's a peek behind the curtain. Even if it's just a little breeze that blew, I was like, okay, there is something in there. But I'm just too afraid of, I remember real quick going to bed in 2016 when the election came about and was decided. And I felt like I wore black for 2 weeks after that because I was like, my God, what has happened? I felt like I couldn't laugh. I couldn't smile. Places that I went, I felt like white people just felt like they had just so much more superiority in the way they talked to folks. And I grew up in Martinsville, Virginia, which isn't too far from Boone's Mill, Virginia, where there's this huge pottery place with the most Confederate stuff anywhere. And they literally will stand out in the roads with the Confederate flags and all the things. These people just felt so emboldened. And even the Tiki Torch people. There weren't masks of old. These people had no hoods on. So that could have been your lawyer, your doctor, your teacher. So wait a minute, you struck down my loan. You falsified that I had, something in my urine when I didn't. You are failing my kid. my nutritionist, and you gave me something that's going to make me sick. You know what I'm saying? Like, how far does this go? How far did they feel so emboldened that it's going to affect any and every part of my life? And I don't know where it's coming from. And they're given right by the person who is the leader of the free world sitting in DC.
So a lot of people, I feel that this may be more of a referendum against him and his antics and his perceived character, as opposed to just straight policy.
But my thing is, who's going to check him? Like, you know, God loves she by Sheree. Who's going to check me, boo? Like, who's going to check him? Who's going to check him? He's got so many people in place behind him. And only after do they come and testify. Oh my God, I was so afraid. But where were you when you were in it? Nobody could call him off. At best, you can leave and maybe get money when you go. Quietly slink away and just disappear. Like, really, that's my greatest fear. If he gets back in office, there is nobody to check him, to whom he respects. His VP. Oh my God, don't get me started. Confusion ultimate. And God bless the wife of the VP. Talk about identity crisis. It just is the worst, awful. And I'm like, how did we get here, even as this being the best candidate from the Republican Party? And I know some diehard Republicans, old school, who are stand-up individuals, who work hard for the community, who give back. So I'm not shaming that base. I don't know what this new crew is. It befuddles my mind.
So, all right, Marneia. Here's my last question.
Here we go. What?
When are you running?
I'm not. I'm not. I mean, I was
sitting here talking about plans and you need to get him out locally. You need to get him out to the state. You need to get him out to the federal. You know.
I was the first Black student body president, female student body president in my high school's history. I went up against the mayor's son. He was a young Jewish man. Brian and his twin brother David and I all went to UVA. I literally had to come at it, and I still say Barack stole my tagline because it was "'Tis time for a change" was my tagline in high school. But I got 3 standing ovations that day from my speech because I wouldn't say pit is not the right word, but I angled the students versus the teachers. But it was letting the teachers know that the students have sense, that we can do something, we can accomplish something, we're going to be great. And I was shocked, like 3 standing ovations in the midst of that. But I found in working through everything after I had taken office, it's a lot of work. And I'm a straight shooter. And unfortunately, I may be too literal, but when I take somebody at their word, the word is bond. And not everybody's like that, because Shade's gonna come alongside, this hand's over here. Again, social stuff that I wasn't invited to, this is said, this is decided. I found out about it 12 paces later. And it's sad to say that perhaps somebody who would be great for an office won't get the opportunity to serve because they want to preserve their life and their sanity. Yeah.
You know, in all fairness, we had this discussion, and most people may not realize we agree more than what may have been demonstrated today, right? Because my role here is I wanted to show what an educated and informed person looks like. And I wanted to ask you those questions because so many times we hear buzzwords and we quote buzzwords and they don't mean anything. I also wanted to have some commonality where we agree that the family structure is crippling, it's deteriorating, and that is the foundation of any particular society. And we have to do something about it. Now, as believers, this is a faith-based, right? That is a part of who I am. I also have to look at the fact that, you know, I am in a position to possibly do something. That doesn't necessarily mean everybody has to run, right? That doesn't mean everybody has to serve office. But the reason why I ran for office is because I wanted to understand how to have influence without the responsibility of governance.
Okay.
Right? A lot of us, we sit and we just allow things to happen to us, right? And there's so many people that I see that just don't want to be involved, but all they do is complain. And we hear those things that, hey, if you don't vote, you can't afford to complain about it. But there are ways to get involved. And you briefly started talking about that. And I want to go back to that family structure and how to get involved in that, or just reiterate what you said. You said we have to get involved locally.
Right.
That means, let me give you some examples. Going to your kid's school, just start going to parent-teacher conferences.
Yeah.
Just start serving as ambassadors to the school. Just start, my daughter asked me, she said, Daddy, can you sign up for Mystery Reader?
Yeah.
Right? Yes, because I want to be present in the classroom. If I'm present, you can't sit here and pull the wool over my eyes. Right? So I wanted to understand, how do I have influence without the responsibility of governance? Because if you look at politicians, they spend their whole entire careers campaigning and less governing is doing. So there's a lot of responsibility that is required for us. So start by getting involved in your kid's school. Start by looking at the school board, right? Understanding who's on your school board.
Correct.
People don't realize that school board budgets in many cases are far larger than city budgets, right? So understand where the money is going. Okay, so get involved at your local level. Understand who your politicians, city council. I tell people, if you want to get involved, go to the Chamber of Commerce. Follow the money. Start going to meetings, city council meetings. You can serve on boards. I figured out a formula how to really get involved and have impact and influence in places that we reside. And these are just some of the just quick tips. So if you want to get involved. Now, if you do not want to get involved, right? If you just don't want to get involved, you really can't complain. You really can't, but you do have a responsibility. Correct. Because otherwise, things are happening, laws are being shaped, laws are being formed and passed, and if you're not at the table, you become someone who is controlled by all the other things. So all the other things that happen to you, it's more like you become reactive. Correct. Right? So I'm encouraging everybody to get involved. Here with the audience, we're going to be giving out some cards of resources. First, we want to know, are you registered to vote? We're about to go into a political season that is critical. Marneia and I, we just had spirited dialogue, and I just wanted to show that, hey, there can be areas of disagreement. Now, we really agree on most of the stuff. I told her I was going to push her buttons. There can be areas of disagreement where we don't have to be at odds with one another. We can have spirited dialogue, but still have respect. And I value you, and I value your opinion. So, but you're informed.
That's a key word, informed, because a lot of the videos I've seen online where somebody genuinely just goes and asks basic questions, it is so sad how someone is just dug in for former President Trump and they have no legitimate answers to anything.
And just wrong as two left shoes.
And
just
it's embarrassing. Wrong. And I'm thinking, okay, you have a mortgage, you have a job. Some of these people may have multiple properties. You have offspring, and yet the stuff that they're spouting, I don't understand it. And I think it just comes from a place of privilege and fear that brown and black, our numbers are increasing in the United States, and they don't know what to do. And instead of coming alongside and sitting down and having dialogue like you or I did, like, okay, what are the concrete reasons why you don't want Kamala in office? Okay, why don't you want 45 back in office? Okay, what was your take on January 6th? Okay, I'm trying to think of there were so many things, like just getting their view, informed view, not this rhetoric and running around with the American flag. And that's the other thing, the flag belongs to all of us. I have a lithograph in my home of a little black girl holding an American flag. She's got pigtails and she's sitting in front of a white wooden clapboard home. And I forget the name of the artist, but he's based in Florida. And it speaks to me. But it's a bit of a conundrum too, because they've claimed the flag as their own. When I see it flying now, I cringe, as opposed to it belongs to all of us. I have family that served in the military. The USS Gravely that's docked in Mobile Bay is the first African-American admiral of the Navy, is an elder cousin of mine. And I'm like, but yet you say the flag means more to you than it does to us?
Yeah, one of the things that, as we wrap up, I want to just really reiterate that we definitely have to get involved. And there's a quote that I often say, and I wrote it in my last book, Black Jesus, White Jesus, Search for Colorless Christ. Go out, you can find it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all of that. Go buy it. I got a kid in college, so help me out. All right. That quote is, difference is inevitable, but division is a choice.
Wow, that's true.
Right? We have that's a choice, right? For us to have this dialogue, we can have differences, and we can have differences of opinion, but we are supposed to be united in vision. We're supposed to be united in mission. And what I wanted to do tonight is really just lay down some commonality to say that we both believe that family is important. Now, how we do it, right? We can both have differences of opinion there. But as you mentioned, we have to get involved locally. There's so many things. We have to have the infrastructure if we're going to make certain decisions. We have to have the support system to support strong families and healthy families, understanding that families go through various transitions and challenges, right? And chaos ensues in all of those challenges and stages, right? But understanding that during those times that us coming together with that foundation is stronger than anything. So I want to encourage everybody to get involved, go vote. If you're not registered, go register. If you don't know who your local and state representatives are, find out what they're standing for. Go out to your city councils, your school boards, find out what's going on. Understand what's important to you and stand on that, but also understand that we cannot be divided. A house divided cannot and will not stand. So Marneia, I want to thank you for all of everything that you just gave us. You gave it to me. You didn't hit me. Y'all clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. Marneia Mitchell. This is the When All Hell Breaks Loose podcast. We want y'all to go out, follow us on all the social media channels, like, subscribe, share it with your friends, your family, your neighbors, even share it with your enemies, but share it to them with love. Go out, When All Hell Breaks Loose podcast. Ask us your questions because we will answer them on social media throughout this time. And go out and get your tickets for the next live taping. I'm Chris King at the When All Hell Breaks Loose podcast, and I'm out. Y'all be blessed.